Good afternoon. My name's Jake, and I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for allowing me to present the findings from my SEO audit that I did on kencove.com, and for allowing me to give you some recommendations for improving the site and how it shows up in search. We're going to start off with a project overview, and then we'll talk a little bit about audience, a little bit about competition. We'll talk about some technical issues on the site, a few errors that we found, and then we'll get into content recommendations. First, recommendations for improving content that's currently on the site, and then we'll get into some recommendations for new content that could perhaps rank highly in search. And then we'll finish up by talking about some metrics that you can use to measure the success of these ideas should they be implemented on kencove.com. The first thing I noticed in beginning my research was that kencove.com is a great site. It has some great content and a large product offering, but it is not optimized well for search. Don't be alarmed by that though. Kencove ranks highly for several different categories, and the great content on the site will actually make optimization easier. So there are several categories that kencove.com already currently ranks highly for. For example, electric fence information, electric fence catalog, and electric fence energizer are all areas where Kencove ranks highly. And even though those pages aren't well optimized, with optimization across the site, you should see those rankings increase for those already highly ranking pages, and also rankings increase for pages that aren't ranking so well as well. So the biggest challenge that jumps out right away is the fact that kencove.com is not mobile responsive. In looking at your traffic reports, desktop and mobile traffic are at about a 50-50 split, and mobile traffic is only going to continue to increase in the future. Desktop conversion rate is also much higher on the site than mobile conversion rate, and this tells me that users are finding the site harder to use on mobile. And so if we're able to optimize the site for mobile and allow it to be viewed easier and more usable on a mobile device, that conversion rate should increase, which should ultimately increase revenue. So, and a site that is not mobile does not show up as highly when searches are performed on mobile. And so Google recognizes the importance of a mobile site and the usability, that the benefits of enhanced usability on a mobile device. So we have to fix this. This is a big issue that must be fixed. Overall, the main goals of the project would be to increase organic traffic to the site, increase conversion rate, and increase e-commerce sales. Ideally, if we can increase search rank for the site, we'll bring more organic traffic. If we can improve content, organization, and usability of the site, as well as implement calls to action, that should increase conversion rate. And so more traffic plus a higher conversion rate will equal more revenue in the end. My approach is to attack the low-hanging fruit first. We'll work on optimizing pages on the site that are most popular first, in turn making them more popular. We'll work on how pages display in Google search through title tags, meta descriptions, and heading tags. This impacts how users see the site. And so once we're able to get that done, we can move on to modifying the content to be more user-friendly, and then to fixing technical issues with the site. Let's talk a little bit about audience. From my research, I found that Kencove's audience is well educated in the agricultural field. They focus on getting the most value for their product. They want products that are durable and long-lasting but aren't going to break the bank. And they're readers and they're thinkers. They shop around. Luckily for us, Kencove offers exactly what this audience wants. And through optimizing the content to reflect the vast amount of information on the site, and by emphasizing the great pricing and high quality of Kencove products, the audience will want to visit the site once they see it in search. Titles and description of pages that don't match will make this audience skeptical, so fixing those will entice them as well. Kencove keywords that emphasize value and performance will also help attract users. Let's talk a little bit about competition. When I analyzed the competition, I focused on two top competitors, Dare Electric Fence Products and Premier One Supplies. Dare has some great content. Their how-to sections offer some great advice. They offer a professional, friendly voice in their writing, and their product offering is similar to Kencove's. But the value and pricing don't seem to be up to par with what CanCove offers. And most importantly, their site is not optimized well for search. So our strategy for competing here will be to add some similar content ideas for the site and to try to make sure everything is well optimized. And this should help CanCove rise above Dare and search rank. Premier One, on the other hand, has some good content and they have a very wide product offering. They also optimize well for search. Their voice at times can be a little condescending and they are very wordy in their approach from what I found. So beating these guys will be a little more difficult than beating Dare, but we're up to the challenge. First and foremost, we want to make sure that the site is well optimized. We'll focus on pages for products that Premier One does not offer, but CanCove does, as well as some of the more important items that both companies sell. We'll use a friendlier, more concise tone that is more inviting to users, and we'll focus on pricing and value. And this should help us make Premier One less premier. As far as content dissemination, something that really jumped out to me was the lack of social media use by both of these companies. Premier One uses social a little bit, but Dare doesn't use it at all. If we can focus on growing social media audiences and providing content and calls to action there, we should be able to capitalize on that audience quickly. Let's get into some technical issues next. There weren't a whole lot of issues that we found on CanCove.com, but the ones that we did find will have a negative impact in search. So we can improve those. Ultimately, it will improve search rank. We simply need to create a few new pages, and most of these problems should be solved. We'll start off by talking about the 404 errors that we found, and those are page not found. So you can see in the screenshot in the presentation that it says error, page not found. So we do not want users stumbling upon that. It seems that when a product is out of stock on CanCove.com, it simply disappears from the site. So this results in a 404 page, which is a page not found. In most cases, these pages are for items that will be restocked. So rather than removing the item from the site, the page for that item could be modified to show that the item is currently out of stock, but it will be restocked in the future. If an item is not going to be restocked, we can create an out of stock page that explains that the item is out of stock and will not be restocked. This way, users can understand what's going on and Google is not finding error pages. In some cases, when a product is out of stock, it is redirected to a 404 page. And this brings about two errors, the 404 error, but also a 302 error. 302 redirect is what we want to avoid. So ultimately, we want to create the out-of-stock page rather than redirecting to an error page. We want to keep content on the site as accessible as much as we can, and if something is moved or removed, we need to focus on directing to a relevant page rather than an error page. Next, we're going to get into some content recommendations. First, some recommendations on how we can improve current content, and then some recommendations for some new stuff you can add to the site. As I mentioned before, CanCove.com has great content, but just a few tweaks to optimize it better for search will work wonders, I think. First, let's talk about the products page. The biggest thing that jumped out here is that the title tag, meta description, and heading tag, which affect how the page shows in Google search, are about horse fencing when the actual page is about the entire product offering. And so this is very confusing to users. The images here are good. The calls to action with the add to cart buttons are good. Users can find what they need on this page. Better structure might help conversion rate a little bit, but the main thing is this confusing description of the page. So if we can rewrite the title tag, the meta description, and heading tags, and you can see some examples here in the presentation of how we would rewrite those, but that's the biggest thing to tackle on this page. Next up is the clearance page. Now the clearance page, the biggest issue here is that the robot.txt file on this site is excluding the page. It's marked as do not crawl, and so Google is not indexing this page. So when users search for it, they're not going to find it. So you can see if someone searches for cheap fence supplies or cheap electric fence, they're not going to find CanCove here because Google is not crawling this page. And even if Google was crawling it, there's no meta description for the page, so there's nothing describing the page to Google as well. So what we want to do is, first of all, get that page indexed with Google, and then we'll come up with a new title tag, a new meta description, as you can see from the presentation, and we'll get this site visible to users. Buyers can find what they need here. Again, a little bit of restructuring the menu may be beneficial to increase conversion rate, but ultimately, Google can't see this page, so that's the biggest issue here. Next up, we'll talk about the articles page. The one thing that's confusing here is that kencove.com has an articles page, and then it also has a blog. So, users have to go to two different places to possibly find what they're looking for. I think ultimately, if we can combine these two sections, it would make usability a little easier. It'll also eliminate the risk of duplicate content. So one thing showing up in articles and one thing also showing up in the blog. Google does not like this, and so if we can eliminate that, it would help as well. And then again, with two different sections that are similar, you have competing keywords. So if you're searching for one thing, maybe the blog is not going to rank as highly as it could because the articles page is ranking higher. And so if we can get one solid blog rather than an articles page and a blog page, that would help increase search rank as well. The links here are good. The internal links, the calls to action buttons could probably be added to entice users to click. But there's a lot of great information here, and we'll touch on this again when we talk about the blog a little bit later, and how we can optimize that. And then it would also, kind of bring this all full circle. Next up, let's talk about the About page. As you can see from the screenshot in the presentation, the content here is not good. It doesn't tell you about Kencove overall. It's just a mission statement. And Kencove has a great story, and customers want to know about that story, and so we need to get it out there to them. You could also throw some images in here to make it look less bland, maybe a call to action button to learn more or shop now. But ultimately, we want to get this page looking a little better with some better information for users, so that when they find it in search, that they know what they're getting into. Next up, we have the horse fence comparison page. Now, this is great content. I think it could be restructured and reorganized to be a bit more user-friendly. It could be a little simpler. There are also no links here, so you've got all this great information about horse fencing and different types and different uses, but when the user reads it, there's no call to action saying, hey, click this, go check this out, maybe buy this. So I think a shop now or a learn more type of call to action button would be great. The images could be better. Could be maybe add some videos here to emphasize the content and to allow the user to learn a little bit more. But ultimately, this is great information, and a big opportunity for conversion is being missed here. Next up, the blog. We talked a little bit about the article section earlier. It's a little confusing to have a blog and an article section. The blog, compared to the article section, has great content. The images are good. You got great links. You got call to actions to continue reading. So if we could combine the articles into the blog and eliminate that risk for duplicate content and competing keywords and have it all look the same, I think that would be a great step here. Contact page. Again, this one's kind of boring. I think throwing in some maps here, maybe images of the warehouses. You could throw in a call to action to shop now or to call us on mobile, and helping users find you and contact you builds relationships and ultimately helps conversion. So that's what we want to do here. Next up, let's talk electric netting. Electric netting, Premier One, we touched on them. That's their bread and butter. So we want to compete well with the electric netting page. The content here, first and foremost, is just overwhelming, I felt. Users have to select the type of net, the color of net, and the length of net all at once. I feel like if we broke this down into different steps, it would be less overwhelming and easier to use for these customers. and that might help conversions. You've got good images, you've got your call to actions, you've got links, but it's just a little bit overwhelming. And that's the same for the wire page. The wire page, we've got, you got to select your type, your length, and in some cases your color all at the same time. If we can break this up, make it less intimidating, make it more usable, I think we could go leaps and bounds here. Again, good links, good images, good calls to action, but we need to improve the way the content is structured. And we'll finish up by talking a little bit about the catalog page. KenCove has a great catalog with a great product offering, and so we want users to be able to find that easily. We want to modify the title tag, meta description, heading tags to make it look better in search. And then there could be a clearer call to action here. Users can click each product and go right to that product page, but it's not very clear that you can do that. You kind of have to stumble upon it. So I feel like if we can emphasize that a little more, that could increase conversion rate and revenue. As far as new content for the site, I think focusing on those how-to issues, like a how-to page where these users are buying fence, but they don't know the right type or how to install it or how to maintain it. Images and videos that will show them how to do this would be great, and then you can just link right to the products that they need. And you can see some recommendations for metadata for the title tag, the meta description, the headings, the heading tags in here. But I think pictures and video will make this section very helpful, and then with each type of product that you talk about, you can throw in a call to action, shop now, buy it here, to get these users going straight to the product page while they're learning about it, while they want it, and to buy it. Same thing with the choosing an energizer section. People are buying energizers, but they're not sure what type they need, or how big a one they need, how small do they need. So we could do similar to what we're talking about with the how-to page, where you're explaining to users via pictures, video, maybe infographics that explain what type of energizer they need. And then, as they're going through the site and they see, solar energizers or dual-purpose energizers or plug-in energizers, you have a call to action sending them right to that product page so that they can buy it while they're thinking about it, while it's top of mind. Fence type by animal, again, a lot of the audience is confused. I have cattle, but what's the best type of fence to use? Or I have horses, what's the safest fence to use? And so if we can help them determine fence by animal type, I think that could greatly help conversions. And so you can again link to these different products. So if you're recommending high tensile wire for cattle, link right to that high tensile page, and the user has the opportunity to buy it at that point. An infographic would be great here. You could show the type of animal and then the type of fencing, the different types that are recommended. So that would make it definitely spice it up, make it less bland, and provide great information at the same time. A lot of other sites have fence planners, and so I think that kind of bringing all of this full circle is, okay, if I'm just starting to build a fence, how do I know what I need? How do I know the type of fence I need? How do I know the energizer, the staples, the insulators, the whole product package? And so videos and pictures here would help greatly in showing that how to build an electric fence. What do I need? What can I do on my own? What do I maybe need to hire someone else to do? How do I choose my posts? How do I drive my posts? Just as much information as we can put here in a user-friendly setup, I think will be great. And a lot of farmers or gardeners may be just starting out and they don't know how to get started, so this would be a great place for them to come. And then anytime a specific product is addressed, you just link to it with a call to action button, and again, it should help convert users. And finally, I want to finish up with the solar panel calculator. Solar is only getting more and more popular. There's an article currently on kencove.com about a solar panel calculator, but I feel like it's very bland and we could spice it up by using maybe some dynamic text fields here, where the user fills in something and it takes them somewhere else based on their answer. We could do videos, we could do pictures, infographics here, letting people know exactly what they need and how they can go about purchasing it. And again, once they find out what size of solar panel they need, there's a call to action button where they can go right to the solar panel page and possibly make that purchase. And again, for all of these content improvements and new page recommendations, you can see in the presentation the title tags, the meta descriptions, the heading tags, and any other resources or calls to action that are recommended. So let's finish up by talking a little bit about success metrics. As we stated earlier, the main goals are to increase organic traffic and increase conversion rate and increase revenue. And so early on, we want to measure increases in organic traffic. We can do this with Google Analytics. If you go to the audience menu, you can see that. And we provided specific recommendations on improving 10 of these pages. And so as these changes are implemented, the search rank should increase, and in turn, the organic traffic should increase. So you want to make sure that you have your date range set correctly for when these changes before they started, and then make sure you know exactly where they started so you can see if there are any spikes or if there are any decreases. You can see how these changes are affecting things. Next up, we wanted to increase the overall conversion rate for the site. So as I said, when we improve content, it should improve search rank, improve organic traffic, and then conversion rates should begin to increase. But you don't want to hang your hat on this too soon, because if traffic spikes, your conversion rate is not going to spike right away, because the more people are there, it might bring your conversion rate down early on, but then it should slowly start to climb over time. And you should be able to measure that, again, using those date ranges before it was implemented and knowing exactly when it was implemented, and then looking at after that change took place. And then ultimately, we want to increase revenue. And so if we're increasing traffic, increasing conversion rate, the revenue should follow. And so if you got your improved content and your improved calls to action, it should lead to those users converting and spending more money. And so over time, you should see that revenue climb. And so you can measure both the conversion rate and the revenue under the conversions menu in Google Analytics. And so that concludes our presentation today. Thank you again for taking the time. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and hopefully we can get this process started soon. Thanks. Have a great evening.